Rich boy mocked the new girl in the subway. Seconds later, her SWAT cousin stood up. The subway car screeched and hissed as it rolled into the station, the kind of metallic growl that always echoed through the tunnels. Morning commuters clutched coffee cups, headphones pressed into their ears, eyes fixed on glowing screens. But at the far end of the car, something was about to happen that would shake everyone out of the daze. 17-year-old Eliza sat stiffly on the cracked vinyl seat, her oversized hoodie pulled low over her face. It was her first week in the city. She'd left behind a quiet rural town and the only family she'd ever known, except for her older cousin, Alex, a SWAT officer whose protective instincts had always been as sharp as his aim. He sat 2 seats away from her now, plain clothes and a baseball cap making him blend in, but his eyes never stopped scanning the crowd. 2 stops later, a boy stepped onto the car. He looked about Eliza's age, with an expensive leather jacket, glossy designer shoes, and a phone he held like a trophy. The other students on the train, kids heading to the same elite prep school, whispered and laughed when they saw him. His name was Brandon. His father owned several buildings in the city and Brandon had grown up thinking wealth was power. He'd spotted Eliza at school the day before, awkward and shy, and had already posted a mocking story about her thrift store clothes. Now, with an audience, he decided to turn his sarcasm into a live show. "Look who it is," Brandon announced loudly, his voice cutting through the train's hum. "Country girl trying to play city slicker." A few kids chuckled nervously. Eliza's hands tightened on her backpack straps. She could feel her cheeks burning, but she kept her eyes down. She'd learned long ago that if you ignored cruelty, it sometimes went away. But this time, it didn't. Brandon stepped closer, tilting his phone so the camera caught her face. "Come on, give the followers a smile. Do you even know how to use a subway pass?" His friends laughed louder. Eliza swallowed hard. Every cell in her body told her not to cry, not here, not now. She thought of her mother working double shifts back home and of all the things she'd sacrificed to send Eliza to this school. The humiliation in that moment felt heavier than her backpack. 2 seats away, Alex had been watching. To Brandon, he was just another commuter, a tall man in a cap scrolling on his phone. But under the hoodie, Alex wore a Kevlar vest. His badge rested in his pocket. He'd taken a rare day off to accompany Eliza on her commute because he knew how rough new beginnings could be in the city. Seeing her shrink under Brandon's ridicule made something deep in his chest harden. Brandon moved closer still, reaching out as if to tug Eliza's hood down. That's when Alex stood up. The subway car seemed to shrink. Alex's shadow fell across Brandon like a warning. He spoke calmly, but his voice carried the weight of authority. "That's enough. Step back." Brandon blinked, thrown off by the sudden presence of a stranger. "Who are you, her bodyguard?" He scoffed. Alex didn't flinch. "Something like that," he said, then showed the corner of his badge just enough for Brandon to see the gold glint. "I'm SWAT, and I don't take kindly to harassment." The laughter died instantly. The friends looked down at their shoes. Brandon's face went pale. The train clattered through a dark stretch of tunnel, the only sound the rattle of wheels and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Alex stepped closer, his eyes steady. "You think you're powerful because of your father's money," he said quietly enough for only Brandon to hear, "but real power is how you treat people who have less. You can choose to grow up now, or you can learn the hard way later." Brandon swallowed, his bravado cracking. I didn't mean," he muttered. Alex gestured to the seat opposite Eliza. "Sit. Apologize." Brandon sat, the leather of his jacket squeaking against the vinyl. He turned to Eliza, his voice shaky. "I'm sorry." Eliza stared at him for a long second, unsure whether to believe him. But she finally gave a small nod. Alex sat back down, still watching but letting the moment breathe. The next stops passed in silence. When the train reached their school's station, Brandon lingered. He'd been raised to believe apologies were weakness, but something about Alex's quiet authority and Eliza's composure unsettled him. That afternoon at school, he deleted the video he'd posted. Over the next week, he kept his distance. By the second week, he'd started picking up dropped books for other students instead of knocking them down. He didn't become perfect overnight, but the seed had been planted. For Eliza, the incident became a turning point too. She had felt powerless, but seeing Alex stand up for her reminded her she wasn't alone. She began holding her head a little higher in the hallways, speaking up when classmates asked her questions, even joining a club. She still had tough days adjusting, but she also found quiet strength in herself. Months later, Brandon approached her at the library. "Hey," he said awkwardly, "I'm trying to start a mentorship group for new students. Thought you might want to help." Eliza raised an eyebrow but agreed. Together they began helping other newcomers navigate the intimidating world of their elite school. The city's subway system kept rattling on, car after car filled with stories no one else noticed. But for two teenagers, that one morning had rewritten what power looked like. Key challenges and resolution in the story. Eliza's challenge, being new to the city, mocked and humiliated publicly. Resolution, with her cousin's intervention and her own courage, she begins to rebuild confidence and stand taller. Brandon's challenge, growing up spoiled and entitled, using wealth to belittle others. Resolution, confronted by a real authority figure, he begins to rethink his behavior and slowly changes. Alex's challenge, balancing his protective instincts with letting Eliza grow. Resolution, he intervenes firmly but models respect and restraint, planting seeds for change rather than escalating violence. Inspiring message at the end. Real strength isn't in wealth, power, or intimidation, it's in courage, respect, and choosing to stand up for what's right, especially for those who can't yet stand up for themselves.